England who? Euro 24. What? Who gives a shit? Newcastle United are back. Thank fuck for that. Cannot wait until a week on this Saturday to go and watch the lads in action. Got my ticket sorted for that game, so looking forward to that. But today, Darren Eales, he's finally found his voice. He hasn't spoken since, what, back in January. But obviously since the news broke about Amanda and Mehdad going to leave Newcastle United, we knew that he would have to become the new mouthpiece. It was suggested in the media he would be the new spokesperson, the new face of Newcastle United. Now, it's gone for a little bit of a downgrade, you definitely have to say that. But he has talked today to NUFC TV on numerous issues, problems, news stories, issues over the past couple of weeks, and is just sort of tidying them all up. Now, this comes at the beginning of 6 days where the lads are in Germany getting ready for the new season. The facilities there look absolutely and utterly top bastard bollocks. Looks really, really good, and looking forward to seeing what the NUFC TV social media lads put out over the rest of this tour. Great start today, though, to sit down with Darren Eales and finally get a few questions to a few head scratchers and questions from the fan base. I'll touch on the England stuff probably towards the end of the video, but it's same old England, isn't it? Flatter to deceive and balls up. Obviously, Southgate has left his role today. Whether he was gently pushed, whether he's gone off his own back, I don't know. But look, top bottom of it is he's no longer the manager. That's created another little issue and another little question from the supporters about the future of Eddie Howe, our manager, who is one of the strong favourites to take over the role. However, one of the things that Darren Eales has quashed today, I mean, you can't totally quash it, but from as much as the club can, we've done as much as is humanly possible, I think, we shall say. I think if he was to become England manager now, it would be a case of Eddie Howe pushing for the move, and I just don't honestly see that. I don't see him being one that would sort of rock the boat or anything else like that. Darren Eales has come out today and said that basically a year ago, the club redid his deal on a really long contract with Newcastle United. Now a new multi-year contract extension was signed, was agreed, and if England were to go after Eddie Howe, it would be for a decent wedge of compensation. And you're looking at the FA, and I just don't see them. I don't see them doing that. So from that perspective, that has to be encouraging. You would think that they would go with the cheaper option. I mean, some talk about bloody Lee, what do you call him? Carsley, whatever you call him. You know I'm not good with names. But the England under-21 manager, doing what they did with Southgate, but with him, that would be probably the cheapest, or possibly an interim position for him. Basically a bit of a first shot at the job. If he does well, he'd keep the job. If not, then they'd bring in somebody else. There's also been talks about perhaps getting a foreign manager in, somebody like Pochettino. So lots of speculation, lots to talk about that. But going back onto Newcastle United, he went over another raft of news stories over the last couple of weeks. I've just had to spend literally 10, 15, 20 minutes or whatever writing everything down to put up across the social media. So I've done all of that. I'm just darting out now, so I thought I'd just do a quick video on it all. He started with the PSR deadline, and of course there were a lot of fans raised eyebrows with who was going, how they were dealing with it. And he said, yes, look, there was a hole in the finances. It needed to be sorted. And they took the decision that the offers for Elliot Anderson and Yankuba Minter were the right ones to do. It was the right deals at the right time, sorted the problem out, on top of the, you'd imagine, the Dan Cash with money coming in as well. And he said in doing that, it kept the core of the team together. And that was the primary driving factor. We didn't have to sell any of the crown jewels. Yes, we've had to sell one or two youngsters, but is it a case of better the devil Elliot Anderson, would he get to the required potential to be better than a Bruno? It's probably a long shot. Yankuba Minteh, unproven in the Premier League. I know people are going to be screaming, but yes, you know, he did fantastically well in Holland, and you can't take that away. He did brilliantly in Holland. He did great, but he's only been in Danish and Dutch football. So if somebody offers you £30-odd million and chance for a good, quick, tidy profit on the money that we invested a year ago, I can see the logic in selling those two players, keeping your Isaacs, keeping your Gordons, keeping your Brunos, keeping, you know, Joe Linton. We were able to offer him an extension on to his contract. Keep that core group of players together, give them another season to see if we can get back into the Champions League, or if we can win a cup, you know, a cup or whatever. It makes sense. Anderson was missing for what, 4 months of last season as well, injured. Minteh has never ever kicked a ball for us, so to sort the PSI shoes out by just selling those two, it does sort of make sense. It's not ideal, it's not perfect, it's not without criticism, but I can see the sense in what, you know, in basically what they're saying. But yeah, he just said that it was the right deal at the right time, and we wish him all the best. And I think that's all that you can do in that situation. I think he gets the fact that that is open for critique, but what were the other alternatives? To sell a Gordon or somebody? Can you imagine that? Yeah, it would literally be a heads go moment. So I think he did the right one. He talked about going forward and how every decision from now on has to be very carefully thought about, and not just the here and now, but the longer term future. So if they buy somebody now, does that weaken the position further down the line, window to window? So spoke about that, but did say again, we're into a new cycle, a new 3-year cycle. There is money available to go out there and to strengthen, and we will always spend to the maximum that we can. So talked a lot about the fact that headroom. Spoke about the fact that commercial revenue has gone up from £140 million, 30% year on year, every year since coming in. And on last year's accounts, the total revenues should be up to over £300 million for the first time. So 140 when the new ownership group came in. That's what they inherited. That's the financial commercial revenue situation when they started out at the club, and they're now up to over £300 million, and spoke about 2 to 3 other major deals in the pipeline that they will be announcing over the next couple of months. Now, I've heard little rumours, I've heard people speculating on what those could be. Fingers crossed that is right. Lots to talk about, training ground gear, training ground sponsorship, so on and so forward. And he was saying it with a big smile on his face with regards to new commercial partners in the pipeline. So that'll be going through the process of being checked off for fair market value and so on and so forth. You would imagine deals that are close to being finalised maybe could also be described as in the pipeline. So exciting that, you know, best financials that we've ever posted, over 300 million, and yet they're still not resting. They're still looking to push and literally get a sponsor for everything. If it's not nailed down, Stapler, stick a sponsor on that. Tea Lady, get her a sponsor. Get everybody a sponsor. If you can sponsor it, then it needs to be done. And it's as simple as that. In the world that we live in, with the finances the way that they are, when your Manchester Cities are what, over 700 million were there, we've got to take every possibility to sort of try and reduce that gap as much as is humanly possible. He talked about the new season, that they're excited for the new season ahead, that they are looking to strengthen, and that they must, because he talked about the aim for the club this season is European football. That's sort of came across as a bit of a non-negotiable. He said we were so unlucky. Generally the club who finishes 7th does get Europe. He said that we were unlucky, but that in future seasons that is just basically the baseline, that we qualify for some sort of European competition next season, which is fair enough. And then we compete in the cup competitions. So again, it's been laid pretty clear in the sand. The want success, the want progression. The club must be moving on at all possible times. We will be making signings, and that Paul and Eddie, obviously Paul Mitchell that I'm referring to there, who's the new guy, then who's replaced Dan Cashworth, are looking into that. and they are working in ways in which to be very, very using their own initiative and thinking maybe a little bit out of the box. So maybe looking at some new markets, some different areas. So not maybe all just Premier League, maybe looking into Europe, looking into South America, looking into Asia, and trying to find ways to basically get the best value for the money that we've got and to stretch the budget as far as humanly possible. I mean, we're not talking Chelsea levels of stretching the budget where they're selling fucking hotels or the women's team back to themselves. You know what I mean? Not that level, because if we did something like that, there'd be rules, there'd be Premier League meetings called straight away, and there'd be action and there'd probably be consequences. But as it's Chelsea, it's absolutely and utterly fine. So what else did he speak about? Lots and lots and lots and lots. Again, coming back to the commercial side of it, that 30%, he said, is absolutely phenomenal in terms of growth. And he put a lot of that down, and he paid a lot of respect and homage to the ownership, and said, yeah, phenomenal ownership, are doing absolutely great things on there. Spoke about our new another director, the performance director, James Bunce, and talked about the fact that he's looking into the injury side of things. Obviously, at the end of last season, there was a big delve into what the hell went wrong, because it was a clusterfuck with regard to injuries. There was injuries after injuries, players coming back, playing injured, with crazy, just batshit that wouldn't go off at other clubs, but it just seemed to be the norm at Newcastle United. Naming 3-4 fucking keepers on the bench and a couple of youngsters. Unprecedented levels of injuries. We were the worst with regards to days lost through injury last season by a fucking country mile. So he's been brought in to look at the injuries, to cover the medical and the sports science areas, with a remit to reduce the injuries, and again to give Eddie as many players as possible to really, really punch above our weight. Spoke about the fact that obviously James has worked previously with Paul Mitchell over in France, and he said the fact that he could start work straight away, it was a new, exciting role that he expects other clubs to follow. It was all major ticks. So he's brought him in straight away. He's been able to start straight away. They've got that, obviously, that working relationship from previous clubs as well. So there's none of that getting to know anyone or getting to know how they work. And also, as well, Paul Mitchell can vouch for the impact that he's had at Monaco. So again, another major plus. But he's already, onto it. And like I said, the focus is on competing for trophies. You're looking at the England situation, and the wait goes on. The wait's even longer for Newcastle United. So this season, we've really got to attack the cups. He spoke about the fact that we got to the quarterfinals in each competition for the first time in 20 years. It's shocking that when you look at it like that. It really, really is shocking for a club our size to have to wait as long as we have, even just to get to balls deep situation in the cup competitions. It's mind blowing. So again, pushing the cups, and let's just see, can we win a League Cup? Can we win an FA Cup? Can we get to the latter stages of those competitions? Hopefully we get some nice bastard draws this season. We don't want to be playing Manchester City away on doubt like that. If we get some nice easier ties for a change, a little bit of luck, that would go a heck of a long way. I know you've got to play these teams at some point, but seriously, the draws that we had last season, Champions League, FA Cup, just mind-blowing how difficult a job that we made it for ourselves. Where else did he go up? He did speak about Paul Mitchell as well. Obviously, it's not just James Bunce that we've taken on over this summer break. We finally managed to replace that bastard snake Dan Cashworth, and thanks for the £10 million. They've actually paid us to get the bloke that they initially wanted. We've certainly, I think, got the better end of this deal. We've got an upgrade, as far as I'm concerned, with regards, to that position. And it rolled on from February right the way through. And for a club Manchester United size, it was just comical and farcical how this just was left to roll on and roll on and roll on. And you've got Radcliffe coming out in the press, bitching and complaining and whinging, and finally he got his hands in his fucking pockets pulled out a few quid, paid for the services. Newcastle United still come down from the position that they were contractually obliged to, but we've come down, we've met them in the middle, the deal's been done, he's gone. Paul Mitchell came in, and he said on the appointment of Paul Mitchell that he was excited that the deal had got done. The fact that he already had, again, Premier League experience, kept coming back to that in both of the corporate appointments that have been made. He said that he's got a global vision, but obviously lots of extensive Premier League knowledge. Spoke about his experience in France and the Red Bull Group. I do expect at some point this season that some sort of PIF multi-club group is going to be formed. We're going to be part of it in the same way that you've got your Manchester City group. It's going to be in that vein, in that style. So I think at some point this season that comes into play, and I think the fact that he has led and been part of that Red Bull Group does again give him another string to his bow, that look, he's done that before, and I think that will benefit us in years to come with regards to expertise sharing, player development, sending players out to loan, bringing players back, being able to share the load and save costs maybe on certain things. When you've got several clubs all working together, working in an aligned way, you can afford to trim some fat away, maybe at Newcastle United, save a few quid, which helps the bottom line, which helps with money left over to invest in the club as well. So Paul Mitchell, again, spoken about, again, just like James Bunce, spoke about him in really, really glowing terms, really positive. Yeah, so again, positive, looking forward to the future. Speaking of which, he did touch on Amanda and Mehrdad leaving Newcastle United. Talked about the impact, talked about everything that they've done for the cause, for Newcastle United, and the importance the important role that they have played in the entire story so far. If it wasn't for them, then this takeover wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have the ownership in place. Just talked about the fact that they were persistent, persevering to get the club sorted and then set up with the right people to lead them into a successful future. So again, said lots of kind, very flattering, complimentary things, and he said he was looking forward to seeing what they got up to in the business world next. So probably a suggestion that they've already got the plans in place. They'll have made a tidy profit from the transaction, selling the remaining 6% out. The club is valued a lot more now to what it was back when the deal went through. They will have made a tidy profit, I've no doubt about it. But I tell you what, you earned every cracker of that money. So however much it is, however much PIF, it's mainly PIF, isn't it, have paid, however much the Rubens have paid, it's now, I think, 15% PIF and the Rubens for the new ownership structure. Whatever they've paid to get the shares like that, to buy out PCP, then I'm absolutely and utterly happy for that. I'm pleased for them, and I would thank them from the bottom of my heart, because literally we were up the fucking shit creek without a paddle. We were probably heading toward, no, there's no probably about it, we were literally destined to be relegated to the Championship. And then you're looking at a Sunderland or Leeds situation where you just got a massive club in free fall with huge amounts of money owing. And it literally could have been a nightmare scenario. So they came in, they didn't give up, they stuck by the club, they stuck through us by thick and by thin. They showed dedication, and they've been rewarded for that. But to me, there's no amount of money that you can give them to possibly thank them for what they've done for our football club. They've given us hope back, they've given us our club back, and they've set us up for years and years and years of future success with good, patient, long-term investors who are determined to take us onto new heights and leading us in a professional manner. These are things that we just didn't have under Mike Ashley. You're talking about the 140 million going up to 300 million pound. all of that. But it's not just that. Look at the training ground, £10 million spent. Mike Ashley, that's perfectly fine. It's all right. What you on about? What you whinging about? It's better than my fucking shit direct factory down at Shirebrook or whatever it is. And they've come in, they've spent £10 million, state of the art, making appointments to be able to look after every aspect of player welfare. You know, a commercial team from absolutely nothing, building the club up from literally the foundations upwards. So yeah, you can never honestly thank Amanda for what she has done, her vision, her passion. The women's side, you know, the women's club. We yes, we had a women's side, but really, did we have a women's side? You know, they've brought that into the Newcastle United family and successive promotions. And now we're going ahead signing like the best keeper in the league. We're signing Lionesses. It's just exciting times. Everywhere you look at the club, it's just exciting. I cannot wait for the new season to begin. I don't think I've ever looked forward to going to Hull quite as much. But yeah, a week on Saturday, I'll be there. Cannot wait. It feels like ages since we've had a Newcastle United match, and after watching the Borefest, which was Euro 2024, even more makes you appreciate the Premier League. Newcastle United shows you just, I mean, how much you love it, how much it's ingrained in you. Watching England was absolutely fucking excruciatingly painful at times. So yeah, cannot wait. It was nice to hear Darren Eales speak so glowingly about his former, the former business partners, the former owners. It still seems a bit weird talking about them in the past tense, but yeah, I cannot ever thank them enough for what they've done for our club. And just to have that hope back, just to see smiles on people's faces when you go to St James's Park, to have a little bit of optimism going into the season, to think, you know, perhaps we can win a trophy, perhaps we can qualify for Europe. It's just a major change from just going there and going through the motions and expecting another relegation fight, because that's what it was like under Bruce, that's what it was like under Mike Ashley, and that was what it was like under that absolute useless shithead Lee Charney, with his slip-on shoes because the man couldn't even tie his own bastard laces. So yeah, that was the main gist of things. I don't want to be too long because I shall be getting it in the neck if I'm too long and out and about too long. But quite a few important questions answered. I think he was as open and transparent as he could be. I think he needs to communicate a lot more than he has done up to this point. If he is to be the face of Newcastle United, he needs to be there. Amanda was at every home match. Amanda spoke to people on social media, messaged people, was at the women's game, talked to the fans regularly there, spoke to the fans around Newcastle City all of the time and stuff as well. So he's got to do sort of similar things. I think the last time that he spoke was round about January, I seem to remember, when the financials came out. And although at important times when stuff like that has come out, or the speculation around the manager, etc., you would expect to hear from him, I think we need to hear from him a little bit more often. That's once every 6 months or so. Needs to be more moving forward, so that just that issues and problems don't snowball up and become bigger issues and problems. It nips things in the bud straight away, and it stops speculation from going and running absolutely wild. The Eddie Howe one was a classic one today. Fans worrying, because obviously Eddie's a very patriotic man, proud of his country, but you're sort of sitting there, will he, won't he? The club have come out and basically said, look, we've done as much as we can to protect our position. We don't want him to go. We don't believe he wants to go. We've given him, another revised new contract, not even 12 months ago, that's got a big fee on it to be able to get him out of it. And if they were to get to the situation where they still were to approach Newcastle United, you'd be talking a lot of money to get him out of that deal. And I just think everything combined over suggests that we'll be all right on that one. I've got everything crossed. Do I think Eddie Howe would be good as the England manager? Yeah, I do. I think he'd be absolutely great. He change systems around, it changed players around. It gives certain players like Gordon an opportunity. I have no doubt about it. But hopefully England go for another manager. I wouldn't be against one of the foreign managers coming in. To me, it doesn't matter where you come from, which nation, just best man for the job. And hopefully somebody with some attacking flair, some flexibility, and somebody who's got a set, who isn't actually scared to make the big call. So maybe dropping a Foden or a Bellingham if they're not playing particularly well, or a Harry Kane, for example, and then bringing in others, giving players an opportunity and playing square pegs in square holes and round pegs and round holes, and actually playing people to the best possible positions, not playing them out of position, and not trying to shoehorn your favourites in time and time again. So be interesting to see where England go. Hopefully they make an appointment sooner rather than later, because I think there's international games coming up in September, you know. I think it's this Nations League, which I know it's about as important as, isn't it? But still, I think the first game might be against Ireland. So you would think and hope that they would get somebody in plenty of time before that game. If not, probably an interim appointment to take us through these Nations League matches, and then get somebody in who's going to come in for the route to the World Cup, because you expect it to be pretty much of a canter for England to qualify for any tournament, to be honest. But get somebody in, let them have that bedding in time, get them used and to knowing the players, to experimenting between now and the tournament itself, and then not experimenting when you get to the bastard finals. That's not the idea, because it's not been great for England. I mean, people talk about the fact that it hasn't been great at this tournament. It wasn't great on the build-up. You look at the friendlies before we went, the game at St James's Park, wasn't great. I know that was a win, and a win's a win, but we haven't played great. The games before we've struggled against, there's probably been like 10 games in total, including the matches at this finals and the games before, when you put them into a block, and we just haven't been playing anywhere near as good as what the players were capable of. I think that's the thing. If you go, this is the same for Newcastle United, it's the same for England, if you go to any sort of game and you've given your all and you've fallen short, you can take that. But when you go and the players are capable of so much better, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You're like, you've gone there and you haven't done the best version of yourself. What could have happened if you'd done the best that you're capable of? And it leaves that old what if, doesn't it? So unfortunately, we've now just got to take that on the chin. The next European Championships is back on these shores, so you never know. Could it be third time a charm? I think with an attacking, decent quality manager in, there's no reason why it can't be, to be honest. But I think there's been every opportunity to have won one of these last few tournaments, and I think it was the right decision for him to go. I think Southgate probably should have gone after Qatar, in all honesty. And again, it would have given them the Euros, the new manager, the new Euros, before then going into a World Cup, which you'd say a World Cup's more difficult to win than what a European Championship is. So perhaps he should have gone after the Qatar World Cup and been given this time now to build up to the World Cup. But it's not to be. But as long as it's not Eddie Howe, I do not give a flying fuck. Especially, and I've said this all along, just coming off the final, obviously, for England, but I would much rather Newcastle United won the League Cup than England won the World Cup. I'm always club first, country second. People might be different. People might think, oh, England's the top, this, that, and the other. It's not to me. International football's nowhere near as exciting as what Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup games are. Even European club competition. It's way, way better than any international football that you can ever show me. As yeah, that's just how I feel. So yeah, cannot wait, and hopefully it won't be too long until we make some more signings. I'd like it if there was to be some signings before the Hull game, because after the Hull game, They'll be flying out to Japan. We also due to be playing a behind the closed doors game against Burnley, up at Burnley's training ground. That is a game designed to get Sandro Tonali some minutes, because obviously Tonali can't play in pre-season friendlies, but he can play behind the scenes, closed door type games. So I wouldn't be surprised if we played a game whilst we were out in Germany. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we did that. And then we play in this game against Burnley. Date to be confirmed, but Tonali will be involved. It was nice to see Tonali involved in the travelling party going over to Germany, and it's not too long now until we see him back, and he looks in absolutely amazing condition. He looks absolutely primed, ready to go, and the old adage, it'll be like a new signing, because we barely got to see any of him last season before obviously he got his suspension and stuff like that. So fingers crossed, it's a good season, a positive start. He hits the ground running. He plays well in these couple of build-up games as well. That'd be good. And then we just get to see him. Might be getting joined as well very, very shortly by a former colleague at AC Milan, no less. So fingers crossed, we'll get some of this speculation. It'll ramp up into an actual signing sooner rather than later. We'll start to strengthen the squad. Certainly from what Darren Eales said today and suggested today, there's money there available. We'll spend up to the maximum always, and we're looking at ways to be able to give Eddie Howe the best possible tools to be able to do the job, to deliver us some success, and to continue this build of the club as it rises up brick by brick. We're still on we're still en route, we're still on plan to brighter things, to bigger times, and the old adage is to be number one, isn't it? So we're still on plan, we're still on track to be able to achieve that. So yes, that's a lot to be able to pack into the video. Let me know what you think about Darren Eales down below. The interview, have you seen it? Have you seen the stuff on Magpie 24/7 where we've just tried to take down the main information? How do you feel about the Eddie Howe situation? Are you a little bit more reassured, or do you think that they will come? They will ask to speak to him? Who's going to be the England manager? I'm not going to get into anything else that might happen after that if he was to become the England manager at the Newcastle United job, because it is literally the worst possible timing for us right now. If we were to lose our manager and probably our assistant manager and some of the coaches, it would just literally be the shit hitting the fan. But I'm not thinking like that, because the club has covered all the bases. Eddie Howe seems really, really sorted and settled and happy. We all saw the Gary Neville stuff last season, didn't we? When he said yes in the future, but not at the moment. He likes to be too involved with the players, and now he's into the project. The project's got a long way to run yet before we get to where we need to. And he was much talking about the England job, maybe further down the line after he's had many more seasons on Tyneside, hopefully being successful. So yeah, I think England's a problem to worry about for another day. I think it's the right job for him, no doubt about, but at the wrong time. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so let me know down below. Obviously, there is a few transfer rumours, a bit of speculation flying around. I expect it to ramp up over the next couple of days. Based upon this video, based upon the fact that I think there is money available there to go and sign, to go and strengthen, etc., etc. So who it will be? Well, that'll be the fun thing. A right winger and a centre back by the looks of things. Maybe a striker too. Who will be departing? All the fun of this time of year, but there is still a couple of months left of the old transfer window, so plenty of time for players to come in, plenty of time for players to go out, and we'll see how the cookie crumbles. So I'll leave it here. Subscribe to Magpie 24/7. I better get round because I'm going to probably get it in the neck now for taking ages being out and about. But in the meantime, take care, keep it tuned, and I'll speak to you later.